Welcome back from that commercial break. This is Family Hour, and today, being a Thursday, we are looking at leadership and governance as our theme, and of course, we are looking at ethical decision making. We are with Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria. Doctor, before the break, we had actually looked at challenges that come by and what we should look out for, especially when taking on the road of ethical leadership. But someone would also ask, what are some of the principles of ethical leadership? Yeah.
So I was trying to build a point around the moral person. Now saying we look at the leader as the moral leader,
Yes.
the moral manager, the moral supervisor, because a leader is a moral person who self-identifies also as a moral person. So when we talk about these challenges, it's got to do with the morals. Remember, we talked about being able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. So because it possesses a moral identity and integrated ethics, especially when it comes to decision making, it possesses for ethical outcomes. So what are we talking about? A moral person is one who possesses the trust with integrity and honesty. He has got to present himself with or herself with a role model behavior as that moral person. So when we talk about the ethical principles, every leader must bear in mind that, first of all, he is a moral person. And the principles of ethical leadership, and I would like to use further, I think I used it some time back. And F standing for fairness. Fairness in the way we act, fairness in the way we expect to be treated, fairness in the way we treat others. Are we fair? There are leaders who, when they get into positions of leadership, they forget the moral aspect and become the most unfair and uncouth leaders. And I think leaders need to promote this fairness. How do you treat the people you work with? Because in so doing, you're encouraging them to produce results which will make you actually shine at the end of the day as a leader. But if I come with this lion character and I'm terrorizing everybody around the corridor, I am not fair. So that is fairness. Then secondly is accountability. Accountability for bad decisions or even the mistakes we make. And that brings out that moral fiber. Am I able to own up the mistakes I make? Because as a leader, I am not an angel. As a leader out there, you are not an angel. We all make mistakes, or in the decisions we make, sometimes we make mistakes. So we need to be accountable, even for the bad mistakes, even for the good mistakes, because this shows our strength. When we are accountable for the decisions we make, then we are able to have that moral fiber. Remember, we say the moral person. It shows strength. It shows that we are all well-rounded. It brings respect as well. People will respect you when you're able to say, "Banange munsonywe, I think I've taken the wrong direction here." Because we are all human beings. We are the moral person. We all make errors. But are you able to own up? Because as a leader, we are not angels. We are made of flesh and blood. But we need to be able to own up. We have leaders out there who shift blame. They have made the mistakes, but they want to shift blame to the director or to the manager or to some other person so that they're seen as clean. They want to apportion that blame and not own it up. But as a leader, we need to be accountable not just for the monies we have, but even for the human resource around us and even for the decisions we take as leaders. Then the third one is trust. Great relationships build on trust. We talked about this a short while, but trust is very, very important in leaders. The people you're leading, are they trusting you? Are you reliable? Can they count on you? Can they come and tell you their problems? Do you have an open door policy? Do you stand by your word when you tell them, "I'll be here at 7, I'll be able to make it here," and you give them your word? So trust is very, very important, especially in ethical leadership, because it helps us to build strong relationships, not only around leadership, but even around social capital. What kind of people you relate with, who are your friends you hang around with in your different spaces. we need to build this trust. And then the fourth is honesty. And honesty is being able to discuss truthfully. Are you truthful? And that is about being honest. There are people who sugarcoat things, who tell lies, who cover up things under the carpet, and later on it accumulates and blows, erupts like a volcano. But as leaders, we're supposed to promote honesty in the decisions we make. We need to be able to discuss issues truthfully. You don't say this here, then in the main meeting, you disassociate yourself from it. And the leaders who are like that, they're like politicians. They say this here to you, and then in the main meeting, he will say completely opposite, and you say, but were we together? Is this the person who said this? You find honesty has gone out through the window. But as leaders, we need to promote honesty. And then fifthly is equality. Work with people without discrimination. Because I'm an Acholi, should I only be seen to favor Acholis? Among the people I'm mentoring, I have Bachiga, Banyankole, Bagisu, Iteso, Kumam, Karamojong, and so on, including Acholis. But it is not, I should not discriminate. And as leaders, when we work with people, do not discriminate on tribal basis or any other grounds. That because this is a lady, I should be more fair to her. But the gentleman, the boy child also needs support and attention and guidance. So we should be all round and able to guide with equality at the back of our minds. And finally, there is respect. Show regard for the wishes and feelings of others. And respect begins with yourself. Do you respect yourself? If you are able to respect yourself, then you are able to respect others also. So those are the 6 principles for ethical leadership. And it is further: fairness, accountability, trust, honesty, equality, and respect, which is very, very important, especially if we are to promote ethical leadership and even ethical decision making. Because like we began, I said, effective leadership basically requires a lot of dedication on our part as leaders. It requires us to have vision and willingness to balance our own principles against situational demands towards the best direction. And this one here, we added the benefits we get from ethical leadership. Yes.
Doctor, what is the role of transparency in ethical leadership and ethical decision making?
Well, when you're transparent, that means that you walk in the light. You're able to communicate your decisions at a meeting. You're able to communicate formally or even informally. And leaders who have regular meetings in their organizations, they are able to reach out to the different people under their dockets. Like I have the cluster meetings. I supervise legal, I supervise the Directorate of Legal Affairs, Directorate of Leadership Code and Projects. When I have cluster meetings frequently with them, then I know what exactly is happening in their docket. I'm able to offer guidance, and they're able to explain things to me, and I get to know the projected activities. So you find that is how we have built transparency among ourselves. And if any member is having a challenge anywhere, or is having an exam or a sick child, or we basically know that this team member is having a challenge here, and we need to support the person or encourage the person to attend to ABCD. But that is basically how we work. To promote that transparency, we need to meet regularly. We need to get feedback from the people we are leading. We need to offer guidance to them and show them the direction we should be taking. And that is basically what promotes transparency. Yes.
Okay. Still talking about leadership or ethical leadership. Of course, now someone would say that I want to be an ethical leader. Remember what we said, that when I asked you before the break whether it is mentored from home and all that, and but someone would be out there saying, okay, I want to be an ethical leader. I want to change my path. Probably I've been doing the opposite, but now I want to walk straight and move on. how can they now shift? What are some of the tributes that they need to carry on as they shift their lens into being ethical leadership because of the beauty that comes with ethical leadership, as we shared earlier?
I think somebody needs to be intentional and purposeful about this decision to be an ethical leader, and then you need to work on yourself, because you don't offer what you don't have. You need to work on yourself and begin thinking about changing the direction from where you are to better yourself, and that would require a lot of reading around leadership, because there are so many books on leadership. I was previously also an author. I wrote about the power of service, the touch of humility, how
Doctor,
humility contributes to...
You can't say you were previously an author.
No, I know there are other authors who have come and...
No, you're still our latest.
Okay, as the latest author, I wrote a book on the touch of humility in service. And it's about my testimony, how I have worked with humility and how it has impacted my life. Humility and the fear of God in all the decisions I take, in all the levels I've served in, and I've seen the hand of God raising me. Because I have moved with principles of discipline, determination, hard work, humility, and the fear of God. But humility has impacted more, because when I present myself with humility, then I'm able to get very great results as a leader. I'll give you an example, which I think I shared here before. There was a case I was doing in Western Uganda to do with roads and Newsmead, and this contractor had been frustrated, and complaints had come about him failing to manage the project. And the information I got is that they were supposed to have the town clerks arrested and the engineers, that they had eaten the man's money, and the man had not enough money to deliver on the road construction. So I decided to approach it with humility and said, no, I'm going to engage with these people and see exactly what is on ground. So I went and invited the technical teams in the districts for meetings, and I told them, well, I have heard that you have eaten money. I don't know how much you ate, where you ate it from, but what I want, what brings me here is service delivery. If for sure there is a contract, I would like that to be implemented to the dot. And I'm giving you 2 months. I want these roads done. And I left. I went to all the 3 districts, Kabalembara and Tungamo. In 2 months, construction began. Roads were paved, walkways done, and so on. Now, that was a humble approach. Now, the law gives me lots of powers to go and arrest. I would have gone and arrested, but who then would have done the roads? So I decided to take that approach, and indeed, it worked. Today, as we talk, the roads are paved, walkways done, street lights put in Kabale and Tungamo and Mbarara, and I thank God for that approach. So I would encourage the young people out there, the young leaders, to basically be purposeful and intentional. You don't have to copy somebody. You don't have to have your own blueprint. But they're just general things. Truthfulness, honesty, integrity, stand by your word, model the way for others. Let others see and say, I want to be like this leader, I want to be like so and so. And you can start it even while you are at school. You can start it even while you are in primary. You can start it even where you are now and say, for me, this must be a fundamental change. I need to change my life. I need to start reading lots of readings around leadership. I need to offer leadership with impact, so that tomorrow when I'm not in this institution, several lives are touched, and people can see my footprints and say, so-and-so instituted this, introduced this. Like I worked previously in ethics and integrity, and I drafted these anti-corruption laws. And even when I left, they still make reference to the work I did. And that is exactly what I'm implementing in the Inspectorate of Government, implementing the laws I participated in drafting. And when I went to Ministry of Works and Transport, still with humility, I was able to channel out a number of policies and laws, including the policy on the road tolling, the standard gauge, the harmonized standard gauge and meter gauge railway policy, revival of the airline, and so many others. And with humility, I was able to work with very complicated people who are commissioners, directors. They have arrived, but I would present myself with humility before the ministers, before the permanent secretary and say, as policy and legal advisor, I kindly request you to take this. I kindly request you to review this. My views are here. And with humility, the views would be taken, and later on you'd see them becoming policy and being passed in cabinet. And I would go with them sometimes and be asked to explain. And I would be able to explain and say, well, this is the direction. And it would be taken.
Okay. Doctor, there are moments, now this particular one, I know for all the places you've been to, you might have encountered this scenario where you take a decision as a leader that you believe is an ethical decision, but it attracts criticism.
Yes. Yes, you know, as leaders, sometimes you want to test the water and say, let me try this and see the impact it will have. But like I told you the story of Jonah, good or bad decisions, it has got implications. And like now, us in our leadership positions where the law gives you lots of powers, you have to use those powers cautiously and also carefully to avoid injuring the human being whom you're supposed to be serving out there. Yes.
So how do you survive in such a situation where it's already out and it has attracted criticism?
Yes, but are you able to stand by? Are you able to stand by your decision? If I took a decision which I believe is the right direction to take, I will stand by that decision amidst the criticism. But if I took a decision erroneously or hurriedly or emotionally, I am able to go back and review. I will say, no, I think this decision was made in a hurried way. Give me time, let me go back and review. And I will take the humble pie and go and review and come up with a better decision. So I think leaders, we need to be very objective and think out of the box all the time. Because at times you take a decision, but it's also important to consult. Do you consult? How regularly do you consult? Because even in the Bible times, the leaders then, like King Solomon had advisors. They are a panel of elders, a council of certain elders who would advise him. But in the world over, we are saying he's the most brilliant, the most wise leader in history. But he was also consulting. So as a leader, are you able to humble yourself and consult and say, but there is this decision. What is your opinion? Do you think this is a better way to go? Because we are not there as people who know it all. No. At law school, we were taught that a lawyer, a good lawyer, is that person who knows where to find the law, and not that you're the expert. So in most cases, we keep consulting with colleagues on the position of the law. Even if you've been given a legal opinion and you read it and you're not very satisfied, you can do your own extensive research, but also consult with other senior colleagues in the field. It's very, very important.
Okay. Well, as we draw closer to the end of discussion, Doctor, what would be your closing thoughts? Especially, you told us that, and I've personally witnessed this, and I believe some people who follow you out should witness that you're doing a lot of mentorship, especially among the young people, that you have a multitude of young people who follow you. Some follow you physically, others follow you virtually. You never even know that they follow you, but I mean, there are very many. So what message do you have for them, especially when it gets to ethical decision making?
Ethical decision making is about taking decisions you carefully think through, and you think about the implications or consequences of such decisions. And we have said effective leadership also requires dedication. So you need to be purposeful and intentional, especially when you're taking on leadership roles and the decisions you're taking. You need vision and willingness to balance your own principles against the moral principles out there. And there are situational demands. So as leaders, I think it's important to also be well balanced and all round. Think about the situational demands as well. Live your values by being a role model. Live your values. Remember, we talked about Father. Are you faithful? Are you trustworthy? Are you honest? Do you work with integrity? Because it's time to start building your base of integrity, respect, and ethical leadership. So thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Amen. Thank you so much, you viewer. I believe that this was a learning platform, especially for the young people, because we believe that at least with the young people, we still have a lot we can change in them other than those who are already there. Sometimes the ego might not even enable them, but at least if you can still choose to walk the right way. And of course, there are a lot of benefits. While you think no one sees you, people follow you, people follow your life, and people will know, and they will testify about you, even when in places that you're not, referring to your leadership style. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, we want to thank God for you. Of course, Edrine Osteen Mukalazi is my name. I've worked with Liz. And in transmission, there is Esther and Patience. From the entire team, we wish you a blessed night.